Welcome back. Today I'm doing Pâte Feuilletée Inversée or renversée, meaning inverted puff pastry. So basically it's the puff pastry kind of upside down. The butter is outside, the dough is inside, and we keep folding it to make it turns until we make the layers. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to do because when I was a kid with my sibling, we make it and we stretch it and we put Gruyere or spices or seed and we bake it in the oven, and it's a perfect snack. The puff pastry is kind of very popular because of the millefeuille or Napoleon cake. Here in the States we call it Napoleon. I don't know why. It's millefeuille. It has hundreds of layers, up to 1,000. It's very rare you make 1,000 layers. Normally you just make a few hundreds, and I'll show you how to make 1,000 if you want to. I like this version because it's crunchy. It's still crunchy. It has all these layers of goodness, but it melts in your mouth and it's just so nice. And also you can use it in pithivier. I forgot, the king cake with the almond cream inside. The hardest things about it is stretching it, put it in the refrigerator and wait until it's cold. Again, get it out, fold it and stretch it. That's all. But I don't mind because the results, they're amazing. Personally, I prefer the inverted puff pastry than the regular one because once the butter is outside, it's easier to stretch it. It's forgiving. I'm not going to show you how to bake this puff pastry. We'll do it in another video when we need it. Right now, we're just going to learn how to make it, then we freeze it until we need it, okay? This is how it started. After mixing all the ingredients, the layer of fat, layer of the dough, then a layer of the fat. So we go from here to here. I'm going to show you how it's done. The ingredient, the details, the measurements, they're always in the link or in the description of this video. So please check that out. Please read the description of the video. There is a lot of information in there. We're going to start by creating what we call butter block by combining flour and butter. Then we're going to make the dough by combining the flour, water, vinegar, salt, and a little bit of butter. So let's start by mixing the flour with a lot of butter. We're using bread flour because of its high protein and high gluten. It's perfect for this recipe. But if you can't find it, all-purpose flour is fine. So let's mix both of them until we don't see any flour. And it's easy to mix them because the butter is at room temperature. Once you're done, store the butter block in a plastic bag where we can stretch it to a square 8 inches by 8 inches. We really want to have that perfect square, and we want to stretch it now because the butter is so soft. It's easy to do that right now. Then store it in the refrigerator until we're ready to use it. Now we're going to make the dough. We mix the flour, salt, water, vinegar, and a little bit of butter. By the way, the vinegar helps this dough to be tender. Here we're going to use the dough hook to knead this dough. Then store the dough in a plastic bag or in a container in the fridge for a couple of hours, or even, which I prefer, overnight. It will help the dough to be easier to manipulate later. Normally when I make the puff pastry, I make 2 batches because it takes the same effort. So get the butter out of the refrigerator, stretch it into a rectangle of 16 inches by 8 inches. It's going to be cold and hard, and if it's not, if the butter is soft, put it back in the refrigerator. You can stop any time. So we want that perfect rectangle. I'm using my famous frames. You don't have to, it's very optional. And put it back in the refrigerator again, get it out, continue doing the same thing. This butter is going to be twice the size of the dough, which is a perfect square, 8 inches by 8 inches. And then you're going to try to stretch it into 16 by 8. If the butter is too soft, you stop, put it in the refrigerator. So as of now, we have one single layer of the dough between 2 layers of butter. We continue rolling the dough or stretching it until we get a rectangle of 16 by 8. It does not have to be this exact measurement, as long as you have a rectangle where one side is twice longer than the other one. This version of the puff pastry is very forgiving because the butter is outside, so it's easy to stretch. If it's too soft, stop and put it in the refrigerator until the next hour or the next day and finish this process. So this process also is called lamination, and we're about to make our first turn. So we're going to roll the dough. We take 1/3 of the dough, we turn it once, then we roll it again, and this is called one single turn. And in this turn, we're going to get 2 layers. We have to stop right now, put it in the refrigerator, and we're going to finish it later. We get the dough out of the refrigerator. By the way, the open side you're looking at should be facing your left or your right. I'm using plastic sheets to keep the dough from sticking to my marble table. Some people, they use flour. I don't want to do that because it will change the ingredients and it will make the dough tougher. So we're going to keep stretching and rolling the dough until we get a good rectangle, 8 inches by 16 or something similar to that. And we may have to stop if the dough is soft. Actually, at this moment the room temperature was quite high. I had to stop and go back and finish later because the dough gets too soft. Then we're going to do the same thing which is we did the last time, meaning we're going to take the third of the dough and roll it once, then roll it again. It looks like a letter, and that will be our second turn. Remember, our first turn was 3 layers. Now with the second turn we have 3 by 3, 9 layers. It's growing exponentially. Continue this process, which is called lamination. Right now we are at the turn number 3, so automatically we're going to have 9 by 3 layers. Remember, it grows exponentially. So keep stretching, roll it, put it in the refrigerator. You can even put it in the freezer for another day or another week. Just make sure you mark how many turns you did. Continue making turns until you get the desired number of layers. You know, after the third turn, you know you're going to get 27 layers. That's really the minimum. If you go up to 6 turns, you will get 729. But if you want to get the 1000, all you have to do, turn the dough on itself, and you go from 729 layers to 1458 layers. That's over 1000 layers. Well, we're done today. So I hope to see you for another video, especially since we have a puff pastry in the freezer. I'm going to show you how to use it in so many different projects, and you're going to love it. And I hope you try to make it. It's not that really hard. Just split those little projects in tiny little mini projects and you can achieve it. I have a small piece here. I'm going to try this, and you can see it just lots of layers of goodness. It melts in your mouth, crunchy, but it melts. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and family, like it, leave a comment. Please make sure to read the description of the video so you can find that link. When you click on it, it'll take you to my chefrachida.com site, where you have the list of all the ingredients. If you have any questions, you can leave the question on my website or a comment in this video, and I will be very happy to answer them. Thank you. Bye.